When they get done with us, they're coming from you, for you, and all your interracial children. Y'all are next. And you'll be standing up here fighting for justice just as well as I am. I am so disappointed.
Look at this. Why the hell is the FAFSA asking what type of white I am? I don't think I have ever been asked what type of white person I am ever before. I mean, this isn't a bad thing. I'm just like, when did this start happening? Because you know what I mean? Usually you just hit white and then you move on with your day. They don't have any other questions, usually. I don't know who they is. I'm thinking all the other forms I've ever filled out. Usually you just hit white and move on.
Are we returning to the times where you can't tell someone you're a Polak? Because I'm not, man. I swear to God, I am not.
You can't be a good white person and put your body in between them trying to kidnap a brown person or harm a black person. When you do that, you lose your proximity to whiteness and you lose the benefits that come along with it.
White people were the first people to be subjugated under white supremacy. If you don't understand history, that won't make sense to you. But Europe was at war for centuries. Why? Because the British and the Spanish elites viewed Nordics, Celtics, and Welsh as savage people who needed to be civilized. The same excuse they have used to subjugate all people, right? In order for European elites to subjugate the rest of the world, they first had to subjugate Europeans. Without the subjugation of the Irish, the Scottish, the Welsh, white supremacy would have been essentially impossible. The system didn't start off as white versus non-white. It started off as Celts versus Saxons, Catholic versus Protestant, peasant versus aristocrat. There has always been an ethnic, religious, and class-based hierarchy inside of white supremacy. As the subjugated grew bigger than the subjugators, then came the creation of white, right? A way to racially pacify an also burdened group or subjugated group of people. Because initially, the concept of white and black did not exist. They created that concept so that white people would be pacified and side with the elites so that European people would side with the elites instead of African and indigenous people. Without the concept of whiteness, subjugated would have outruled the subjugators. What did they do? They created this whole class of a right to liberty, right to bear arms, right to pursue freedom of happiness. Also, that white people were ingrained with this ideology that they were a human entitled to something that African and indigenous people were not entitled to. A racial bribe, per se. Without this concept, elites wouldn't have a foot to stand on. Capitalism would be non-existent. White supremacy would be non-existent. It gave white people power under white supremacy over people of color, but ultimately, they too are still subjugated. It's only when white people break from the subjugation of whiteness, right? The mind control that whiteness has on their mind, that is when white supremacy will be destroyed, right? They were the first to be subjugated, right? They will be the last to be subjugated because they have been the most pacified by the concept. When white people are tired of being subjugated, then white supremacy will fall. Also, don't forget to follow me on YouTube and follow me on here because I love talking about socialization and how it intersects with basically everything and how we are in this predicament that we are in now.
Can we say that this is a redefinition of whiteness and it is bringing the end of its immunity? Is it the moment that we can say that white supremacist is actually fading slowly each and every time, year after year? And we can also see that from the sources that we watched, that Black Americans did actually predict this. And this is not because they are psychic, but this is because they've been inside this kind of pattern.
You know how we keep saying that they're coming for you next? It's not going to take long until it's at your doorstep. Specifically in the context of who are they going to make you hate once they've deported all of the brown people? I'm going to show you something that I just screenshot from someone else's post that stopped me in my fucking tracks. But first, let me tell you about how whenever I had to fill out demographic information in school, starting in kindergarten, the options were Caucasian white, Black, non-white Hispanic, Native American, and by the way, non-white Hispanic was non-white/Hispanic, as if those were somehow the same thing. Native American, Asian/Pacific Islander. Similarly, I didn't think that those were the same thing. And then there was the other. As a child, wanting to just be as honest as possible, I chose Asian/Pacific Islander. And I didn't think that those were the same thing. As you know, I'm Persian, a region that is located in West Asia. That's West Asian, not Middle Eastern. Middle East, according to who? Decolonize that. So anyway, later in life, I find out from someone, very accusatorily, by the way, that I was supposed to be putting white this whole time. And I'm like, white? And they're like, yeah, you're literally Caucasian. And I'm like, yeah, but have I had a Caucasian experience? Was I the girl with the stinky food at lunch who then had to beg her mom to make her white people food? So I went from delicious rice and stew dishes in a Tupperware to bologna and cheese because I was too embarrassed. Was I treated like a pariah after 9/11? Did kids always ask me, starting in elementary school, whether my dad was going to school? Yes to all of these. So obviously I was surprised when I learned that I was supposed to be putting white this whole time. But ask me why I feel vindicated right now. Someone just posted a video from her FAFSA application wherein they are asking her to define what kind of white she is. German, Irish, English, Italian, Polish, French, other white? Other white? These are the ones that they hear about, though. Why? A, I don't see Persian on here, and I also don't see anything West Asian on here. We're a big enough group that if they intended to make that white, it would have been white. That's why I feel vindicated. But I also feel vindicated for another reason. What do you think this is for? If I've learned nothing in the last 3-ish years, it's that they don't collect data for no reason. What do you suppose this is for? Why would FAFSA, Financial Aid for College, care about what kind of white you are? I wonder if this would be a good time to remind everyone of how they used to treat some of these whites in this country. Not that long ago. Irish, the Italian, the Polish, I think. Well, I guess to a certain extent, the German and the French too, but never the English. Why do you suppose? Back to my original point. Remember when we said it was going to end up on your doorstep eventually? And maybe not yours directly. Maybe you'll be, but your progeny. You don't see a future where 50 years from now, after they've collected sufficient data and they've deported all the brown people, you don't see a future where they'll be like, the Irish, they're taking all of the seats in college. That's why your kid's not in college. Those French are taking all of the federal funding for college. Your kids should be getting the scholarship money, not them. Or the grant money, not them. You don't see a world where that's going to happen? You think of another reason why they'd be collecting this data? There's going to come a time when there's not enough brown people left to blame them for why your life sucks. Babe, you didn't go to college and you don't make shit for money because the Irish and the German and the Italian and the Polish, they're the ones taking all the good seats in school. They're the reason why your kid's not getting an education. You get it? They have to make you hate someone. Because if you're not distracted by your hate, how are they going to continue to hoard all the resources and money for themselves? Wake up, babes.
For generations, Black Americans want that this system never reforms out of morality. It also expands out of its own convenience. And we all know that whatever thing is tested out of or on the margins eventually comes inside and also comes inward, and now it starts creeping in. And that's not rhetoric, because this pattern can be recognized. Anything that starts from the margin now can reach inward eventually. But this is due to historically the system always starts with those it believes no one will defend. And the system started with blacks. And we know that they were oppressed, they were done all sorts of evil, which you can define because you all know them. And they were done that because they were known that they will not defend. We all know that this system starts where silence is the easiest. And black communities were the testing grounds. They were the surveillance. They were the ones who were done this drone piloting. We saw that these people faced the policing, the dehumanizing language, and also stop and freeze, this kind of mandatory minimums, and also over criminalization, data collection, family separation, economic exclusion, where these people could not even have access to funds and also loans to better their community and also their wealth, and also be able to create this kind of a generational wealth. And all of it was rolled out first where resistance could actually be ignored, and the public sympathy was very thin. When all these things were happening to the black community, the other communities, the other races never stood up, never showed up. They just saw that this community likes to be the ones that's playing victim. They were so emotional, and they like complaining. While that was happening, the brother the broader population stayed quiet, and not because they agreed. It is just because they believed that this thing did not apply to them. It was not their pain. They could not say that because they did not experience the same.
Bands just told us right to our faces that the white supremacy movement is losing. It's losing power over the whole entire world. You want to know how he told us? Because he told us that their only playbook is the power of our reaction. That is the only weapon they have against us, how we react. This system is destroying itself. And as it's destroying itself, we are globally building alternative systems. So don't get mad at that. Get glad. Because it's a great time to be alive. Don't pay attention to what they say. Your power is what you react to. And he just confirmed that.
So you can't be a good white person and put your body in between them trying to kidnap a brown person or harm a black person. When you do that, you lose your proximity to whiteness and you lose the benefits that come along with it. That's the cost. We're all acting so shocked that they murdered a white woman. Well, see, she wasn't a good white. She was out there advocating for brown people, so she lost her proximity to whiteness. This is the work of dismantling white supremacy. This is what it's going to cost. It's time for some radical acceptance. Because they've been out there killing black and brown people for hundreds of years. And people who looked like me were having picnics under black bodies as they blew in the breeze after they'd been lynched. And then 6 years ago, when they kneeled on George Floyd's neck, we all put a black picture in our Instagram, acting as if that were enough. In order to dismantle white supremacy, we have to be willing to lose the benefits of whiteness. Means they kill us too. That's what that means. And it's time for some radical acceptance about that, guys. That's what it's going to take to dismantle white supremacy, is losing the benefits of the system. So we can't be so shocked as white people continue to die. Because we weren't this shocked when black and brown people were dying. Because we expected it. Not because we weren't grieving, but we expected it, right? You should expect it. We have to lose the benefits of the system if we want to tear the system down. White supremacy has been killing black and brown folks. And it's not going to go down without a fight. So if you lose your proximity to white supremacy and whiteness, you will lose the safety that goes along with it.
They believed that whiteness was permanent shield, which would now shield them from all those complaints which black communities were complaining about. But now that was the mistake of thinking that this kind of whiteness will be a permanent shield. Okay. Now, what black Americans understood earlier is that whiteness was never the protection. It was just proximity to power. And that proximity only works while the power still needs you. But the moment the power does not need you, the moment the system does not need you, you will now come to realize that this system does not have loyalty. It just has interests. And now, whenever their interests now cannot be served by one community, they'll start now creeping into the next one, which is now quite obvious. And historically, we have seen that whiteness actually never had to be this kind of a fixed identity. It has been a political category, which is just adjacent to whenever the numbers or the economic parts and also the economy of this country actually demanded it. And earlier, we saw that America did not even consider all the Europeans, the white races were also not considered very much because we see that they were viewed as inferior, unsettled, and also they were also biologically suspect. And that wasn't ancient history. That was just in 1920s thereabouts, and you can say that it's not that far away. And now the same thing is now coming in. It is now creeping in slowly because you've seen that there are things which are collecting data to classify your witness. Now that's now the strategy, because we can see that these people think that they are being outnumbered, and now to maintain that kind of dominance, the system has now expanded their perimeter, and now witness has widened, and it has not widened out of inclusion, but out of utility, and more people were actually absorbed into that kind of category, so that the hierarchy could actually survive against Black Americans and other communities which are non-white. And now that kind of expansion created a very large coalition which is actually willing to defend the system, because they believe that they actually defended them. They believe that this system has been there for them, has been defending them. But now, Whiteness was never that kind of lifetime membership, because now this we can tell that it is a temporary alignment. And now once that power no longer needs that kind of broad coalition, it does not. It actually does what it always does the best. It narrows the kind of definition again. We saw that they started with segregating the blacks and any other community that was non-white. But now inside this white, they've known that there are other races, and now they are trying to narrow down, and also get to define whiteness again, because our resources are finite. And now the elites actually don't want to share this kind of scarcity. They just want to manage it. And this is why Black Americans kept saying that watch out what they have done for us. They can come to you anytime. Not because it is actually unique, but because it is some sort of a rehearsal. This is something they have done each and every time. And when the rights are actually coming to be eroded slowly, and the minorities will now be out here without kind of protection, and this kind of publicity will now start to tolerate it, because when those actions become normalized, they are going to be now scaled down, and that's what is happening right now. People are now shocked that there is new classification, new forms, new distinctions, and also suddenly they are being asked to specify what kind of voice are they? Are they Germany? Are they Italian, Irish, and the like? And these categories that actually disappeared after World War II, they are now quietly re-emerging. They are now creeping in slowly. And this is not actually a progress, it is a regression with a better branding. They're just trying to write the history newer. And it is now a moment that we're going to return to the early 20th century. And that kind of logic is now happening right now. And now, here is where now we come to get whether Whiteness had life, because had actually this kind of tires and everything. And then this same consideration is now actually deserving. These people are now being narrowed down. They are now being broken down into sections, and also smaller number of groups which can be manageable. And the reason this feels so sudden is because many people actually believe that this immunity was permanent. They've never even imagined that this thing will repeat itself each and every ever again. But Black Americans never did. They have known that this is the same system which had promised us freedom, which had promised us a lot of things, but they never did anything to us. Now, these people have not been surprised, because they know that this was actually a matter of when, because there was never a moment when this kind of system actually stopped watching these people. They were testing on them, they were also extracting from them, and also trying to get to understand the black community at large. And now this system always starts with the edges, because resistance is where at the edges is where the resistance is so weak. And once that tactics work, once that publicity gets it used to, when the public gets used to a certain race being oppressed, now the perimeter moves inward, and now Whiteness now is under threat. And we've seen that these people are surprised. They never expected all these things. And what Black Americans understood is that they were tired to explain. They said that they cried about this system which was built on exclusion does not suddenly become ethical. They knew that this system can even start eating their own. And when that has happened, now they are trying to recalculate. And the real question now is does it now even matter that you are white? Does being white actually enough? Is it enough now that you're just white? And I don't know what we kind of understand here in this whole narrative. It also determines the solidarity and also can you feel comfortable now that you're white under this kind of regime? Because now we have seen that the perimeter is actually narrowing down and that they are not even going to stop quite now. Let us know what you think about this whole scenario where we see that whiteness is under threat and black Americans and want these people that whatever thing you're passing through right now, whatever thing you're doing, this kind of segregation and also these kind of struggles that we are having right now, they will start creeping into you once this system gets to establish its own strategy. Let us know what you think in the comments down below, and you can consider subscribing to our channel.